Okay, welcome back. We're on step 6 of this thing, page 600, which is the fallback guide. So restoring from backup is typically a way you would do this. If this was a virtual machine, that would be trivial. You'd like do one of those snapshot things, and then you install services, and finally you get to the point where you go, oh man, something's wrong. I don't have time to fix it. Let me just restore from that snapshot, and bam, you're right back to the way you were. Otherwise, you're going to have to use a physical backup. So pick that point of no return. I mentioned to you, let's say you have an absolute minimum, an absolute carved in stone 2-hour period of time. It has to be done before 6 o'clock in the morning. Absolutely has to. And so, and it takes 30 minutes to do a restore. So at 5:30 a.m., that's when your point of no return is reached. Can I finish it in 30 minutes? Yes or no? If the answer is yes, I continue. If the answer is no, I say, screw it. We're going to restore the backup and we'll try again next weekend. That's how it's done. Okay. Number 7, the maintenance window. Basically, you have to have an agreement with your customers. Okay? You can't just say, we're going to shut the system down. They're going to have something to say about that. So when do you do it? Do you have a service level agreement that actually talks about, maintenance windows? Maybe you do. What about 24/7 operations? What about that whole idea of having a regularly scheduled maintenance window? I kind of like that. Mondays at 6 p.m. is when we typically do these things. How long is it going to take? Not just the upgrade. How long is it going to take to do the upgrade plus the testing? And if in doubt, don't pick a small number. If you don't really know, pick a number that's kind of large, okay? It's always better to overperform. Tell them it takes 2 hours, and even though it's really going to take 1 hour, okay? That works. That fallback time trigger, that point of no return, somebody's going to have to be keeping track. Somebody's going to be watching the clock going, ooh, we're getting close. On page 602, they talk about the Monday night carte blanche shaded area. Every Monday night, they had a maintenance window. And because of this, things got changed and fixed rather quickly. They didn't have to wait. If you have a CRB that meets every 2 weeks, well, darn well it's going to take at least 2 weeks before you get the fix done, right? But, these guys had a Monday night schedule, so it was, you didn't have to wait very long before you got your fix. Okay. On page 602, they talk about announcing this thing. So here's an example of a message being sent out for an announcement. It basically says who is affected, what is being affected, when it's going to occur, why it's going to occur, and then how you would object if somehow this is going to be causing problems for you. Now let's just talk about this a minute. Are your customers that smart to know DeveloperNet and TownsvilleNet and BroccoliNet? They got to know what that is? No. All servers, they don't know what servers are. They have no idea what that means. Does that mean email? They don't know. This is a horrible example. Okay? They don't know the names of the services. They don't know the name of the servers. They don't know the applications. This is a very bad example. You're going to have to be an awful lot more. Okay, a better example of a poor notice is like this. Let's say you sent out a thing saying the Exchange server is going to be down on Tuesday. Well, do people know what that means? They're going to call you up on the phone and say, hey man, I can't get to my email. And you go, yeah, I know, I told you, the Exchange server. And they go, oh, is that what that meant? So the next time you say, the email server is going to be down. And they call up on the phone and say, hey, I can't get to my Outlook calendar. And you go, yeah, because the email server is down. And they go, oh, is that what that meant? See, you got to talk their language. Actually, the university does this really well. When they send out a notice, it has, here are the things that are going to be down, and here are the things that are not effective. That way, you don't just talk about the things that are going to go away. You talk about the things that are going to stay. Very good way of doing it. You got to talk to the people in a way that they understand. And even then, even if you were 100% clear on what it is that's happening, they're still not going to read it. I'm just telling you. Okay, so continuing. Step number 9. Step number 9 is running the tests. So I got to run the test beforehand. Here's what this thing should do. Here's how I need to check out, the file service. I need to check out the DNS server. I need to check out this. I need to check out this. And so you run the scripts beforehand, right? And in theory, some scripts should fail because they're expecting new features to show up. Maybe, maybe not. But that doesn't mean anything's wrong. It just means you haven't upgraded yet, okay? Otherwise, again, the purpose for running the test beforehand is if your test fails to begin with, and then you do the upgrade and it fails the second time, you're not going to know, was it something wrong with the test? Or is it something that I did during the upgrade, right? So running the test first allows you to fix those problems. Okay, so page 604, the lockout. Keeping the systems out of it while you're doing the upgrade. So in Linux, you could kind of boot to what's called a single user mode. Okay, that kind of works. It's a pretty cool thing. That's kind of equivalent to a remote desktop in our world, in the Windows world. So how do you temporarily disable permissions on a Windows share? I showed you that before, where you go in here to this guy. You could just shut them all down by going to computer management, clicking on the folder, whatever the share is, like engineering, and then basically say stop sharing. That's one way. Or I could actually go to the actual folder itself and go in there and click on this guy and change the permissions on that guy for the share, and basically just say you can read but you can't write. You could just power down a switch. That's one way of doing it. If you had all of your servers inside the room on one isolated network and all your users were on different switch, you could just power down the switch. That way they can't be messing with you while you're doing the survey. Okay, one more time. People are crazy. There's a shaded area on page 604 where you put a big red sign on the machine saying, please don't use, upgrade in progress. 75% of the people ripped the sign off and sat down and tried to use it. Yeah, people are crazy. Okay, back to step 11. Step 11 is do it. You're probably going to need a second set of eyes. Don't try to do this alone. Have a junior person, have somebody else go, wait a minute, did we skip step number 14 in the checklist? You go, oh, dang, okay. Yeah, just a second pair of eyes. Remember, the customers kind of have the last say if something was successful. You might think, well, everything works great for me, but that's not really the good test. The good test is the customers come in and go, wow, things are a lot faster now. That's what the good test is. The fallback on page 605. So sometimes fallback is on an absolute time. It's like it's got to be done before 6 o'clock when the shift comes in, okay? Perhaps everything is working, but it's just taking too much time. You're not having a problem. It's just that you estimated it's going to take an hour and it's really going to take 2. So what should you do? Most likely, what you should do is say, stop, let's put everything back, let's start again next weekend, now that we know how long it's going to take. Somebody's got to be watching the clock. And then, of course, you should probably do the test after the fallback to make sure you didn't screw anything up. Number 14 is restore access. Enable all those services. Undo what we did during the lockout, like the share thing. Because remember, if you turn off shares, by the way, if you disconnect all the people and don't change the permissions, most people will just attempt to connect a second time. So kicking them off isn't really the answer. You could change permissions and kick them off. That will work. Okay. And then step 15, yay, completion. So there's 3 goals. You need to tell people, okay, things are done. All the services are available again. A reminder of what things have just happened. And then a thing saying, if you have problems, please contact us with this. Because, we try to anticipate everything, but we're not that good. And some customer somewhere is going to say, but wait, when I try to do this, you go, okay, I never thought of that. And don't send an email out to announce that the email server is down. Think about that. Don't send an email saying the email server is down. Duh. People do it. Don't laugh. Don't laugh. People do this, okay? And then they wonder why people were screaming, calling on the phone. I said, well, I sent you an email. And it's like, what? You sent me an email on the very thing you shut down? How did you think that was going to work? And then the last one is the after action report. The purpose for the after action report is to learn. We tried this, we tried that, everything worked out pretty good. Or, this took longer, or, this tape drive is getting kind of funky, and, that kind of stuff. It's an opportunity to talk about success and failures and how we can make things better the next time. It's a pretty simple process. Okay, we're at the end of this chapter, and I'll see you guys again in the next chapter.